Scarce City. I am your host, Chris Tremount, Chief Executive Pleb at Scarce City. This weekend, we are auctioning off the Seeing Red collection from Crypsi. It is a collection of six original works, all accompanied with counterparty tokens. That's not all. We also have some limited edition goods coming at you, a couple beautiful prints. We also got some official cypherpunk garments in the form of the Crypsi t-shirt. Crypsi is having some technical difficulties. I'm not sure if they are going to make it, but we are going to push on without them and at least give you a preview of the lots and explain to you how our auctions and purchases work in case you are new here. So let's take a look first at the Seeing Red collection. We are live accepting bids now for the next 48 hours. What does this lot include? This is 6 original works from the Crypsi Art Collective. You have No 2X, J Demon, B Cash Squatters, Dollar Drain, Bitcoin Mantra, and Federal Time Bomb. All of these are tokenized. They come with an open dime that holds the counterparty token, or you can submit your counterparty wallet with your order and we'll send the tokens to you directly. These are some iconic works, man. I feel like especially these days, it's easy to lose the plot and get distracted from what this movement is all about. Crypsi is providing some nice refreshment. Oh, and here we go. We got a surprise. Crypsi, how are you?
Very well, thank you.
You made it. So glad to see.
Just about. I was busy destroying a few banks.
Yeah, I understand. You're busy over there. You got a lot going on.
Yeah, it's quite hectic.
Well, I'm glad to see you make it. I was just talking through the Seeing Red collection, so let's back up a little bit. Look, I don't know a whole lot about you. Even those who recognize you on Twitter and you've been in the space for a long time, they probably don't know much about you. And I know you do have to be careful with the information you do reveal, but what can you tell us about what Crypsi art is?
Sure, yeah. Crypsi is a art collective. There's a group of, it varies. There's been 3 or 4 of us at different times. We've all been involved in Bitcoin at some stage. A couple of us, or 2 or 3 of us, are artists. We make digital art, and we've been making physical art for a long time. So we got started around 2014. We were asked by a guy called Satoshi to make some Crypt art. We made some digital Bitcoin wallets using QR codes, the public keys, and we made a series of probably 10 for Crypt art, I think. We got involved in 2014, and then we started making kind of our own an offshoot of that. Really was just the pure physical art without the QR codes.
That's super interesting. 2014. Wow, those are early days. A lot of us weren't around back then. How would you describe the Bitcoin scene back then, specifically the Bitcoin art movement?
I think, yeah, it was in the fairly early days. I think you had the likes of crypto graffiti was around back then. The Phneep was a big inspiration in the kind of meme Twitter world. There were a few others, but it was a fairly lonely place back then, I guess. And I remember Yule Design created one of the first crypto art pictures, which was The Last Supper, which has gone down and been copied sort of many times over recently. And that was, I think, released in early 2014, around the time that we got involved. And I remember reading an article recently saying it was amazing that this picture had been sold for sort of $2,000. And of course, now you get these punks and rocks being sold for millions. So it's a different world, I guess.
Yeah, that's for sure. But $2,000 back then, how many Bitcoin was that?
I would guess. I'd say that was around the time Bitcoin was probably sort of $200-300. So yeah, it was probably 10 Bitcoin back then, which I guess is quite a lot today.
Yeah, not a bad catch. All right, that's interesting, man. Look, we have a lot of you gave us some really amazing art and prints and t-shirts here to talk through, so I don't want to waste any time. Let's go ahead and talk through them. Let's start with the Seeing Red collection. What do you have for us here?
Sure. So this was sort of back in, we started making some of the pictures in 2016. I think it changed and it got delayed because of the sort of 2X movements kind of took over a bit. So that was the last picture we produced in the range, and it was released really when that picture was released around kind of middle or towards the end of 2017. And the real idea was that the institutions have been sort of very anti-Bitcoin, the media have been very anti-Bitcoin for a long, long time. And all of a sudden, they kind of jumped on the bandwagon, I guess, as it began to take off. And this angered us, I guess, a bit. And the fact that they were just jumping on the bandwagon, pretending they knew what they were doing about it. And they were co-opting blockchain, so the likes of R3 and Corda and Ripple and many of the people we don't like so much. Kind of were getting involved and saying it's all blockchain, not Bitcoin back then. This range is really a reaction to the institutional view of blockchain at the time, I guess.
And you're specifically referencing the SegWit 2X fork that was proposed. Is that right?
Yeah. So the 2X fork, I guess, for those who don't know, was more of an inside job, I guess. The likes of I think Barry Silbert and a lot of the big exchange CEOs, Brian Armstrong, and a lot of the people who are more interested in protecting their own wealth and their own businesses, I guess. And they effectively tried to take over Bitcoin, but the artists and the meme and the Twitter world, crypto Twitter, wasn't really having it. So there was a big reaction. People were still talking about sort of continuing Bitcoin on their own nodes. Bitcoin very, very nearly forked, I think, at that point. And it would have been pretty disastrous because a lot of the big Bitcoin companies would have effectively taken this 2X fork and gone with it, which would have totally split the Bitcoin kind of community and probably killed it at the time.
Yeah, this was happening right as I was being introduced to the scene. So I did experience a little bit of it in real time, but of course I was such a noob that I was just trying to wrap my head around it. But from my understanding, the big institutions that have strong incentives in the Bitcoin payment space specifically were trying to increase the block size so that payments could be done quicker, or actually decrease the block size, right? So payments could be done quicker and cheaper, but it would be more difficult to run your own node. Do I have that right?
We wouldn't say we were really tech people. We believe in kind of the Bitcoin community as a whole. So, I mean, the block size wars, you had user active soft fork movements at some stage as well. You obviously had the fork with Bitcoin Cash, sorry, and or Btrash. And yeah, I mean, Bitcoin's basically been tried to take over. I think egos get involved a lot. So when people make a lot of money from Bitcoin, they tend to think they know better than everyone else and want to effectively take over. I mean, the likes of, say, a Roger Ver, who was a hero to many in the Bitcoin community back when we got involved. He was giving away Bitcoin in Central Park, and he was a big hero to the Bitcoin community, and he was known as Bitcoin Jesus back in the day. But I mean, he lost the plot completely, as far as we're concerned. And the same happens with 2X. That the likes of all the big Bitcoin CEOs of all the biggest companies were forced to back down, luckily. But it came very, very close, I guess, at the time. And it took a massive community movement to really stop it.
Yeah, to me, what was most remarkable about how that resulted was the node operators that really stood up and were able to hold off even, I think, consensus from the miners from the hard fork.
So I think they had Bitmain, I think, was involved at the time, which had a huge majority share in the mining. So you're right. Yeah, it was done through the community and the node operators, rather than, even though they probably did have a majority control of the miners.
Yeah, I mean, to me, that's just like the perfect proof of how decentralized the power is within the Bitcoin network. No matter how much Bitcoin you have, or how much influence you have otherwise in the space, you can't, unless you can coerce a significant portion of the actual node runners, you can't change the network to your own benefit. And that's something that's just like, you can't replicate that.
Sure. I mean, I think the technology and the security of the network is hugely important, but I think the community is what makes Bitcoin. That's what we've always kind of stood for. Is the community is what makes Bitcoin. I think that's vastly underrated and misunderstood by the media, the institutions involved, people who think they can release a new fork or anything like that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's move on to the next one here. J Demon, what can you tell us about Mr. J here?
We haven't got much good to say about the guy. I mean, JP Morgan he's been one of the most outspoken critics of Bitcoin. He famously said that Bitcoin is here to eat our breakfasts. He didn't like the fact that Bitcoin was going to potentially reduce JP Morgan's profits. So he's always said bad things. He said it would never work. He's described it as a Ponzi scheme. He said it's a joke. And I think he needs to take a very close look at himself and the institution he runs before he starts saying such things, especially when they've been fined billions and billions of dollars for money laundering, for rigging markets, for all kinds of atrocities that Bitcoin couldn't even try and compete with given its size.
Yeah, I remember him coming out and saying Bitcoin was a fraud and saying that, if he caught anybody at JP Morgan trading or dealing with Bitcoin in any way, they would be fired. But lo and behold, I think this year, JP Morgan's launched several initiatives to support Bitcoin. I think that, it's like they resisted it for as long as they could and realized they could no longer. And it's a nice reminder that like anytime someone comes out talking negatively about Bitcoin, most of the time, like either they have no idea what they're talking about or they do understand Bitcoin and they understand that Bitcoin works against their personal incentives.
That's exactly right. There's no real argument against Bitcoin unless you're being incredibly self-interested, unless you've got some kind of interest against Bitcoin. So the people who come out against Bitcoin are the economists whose models it breaks. It's the gold bugs whose model it effectively destroys and their markets it takes over. The banks who we effectively have no need for with decentralized cryptocurrencies and especially Bitcoin, whether they be shit coins or whether they be level 2 networks or level 3 networks built on Bitcoin. There's no need for these financial institutions anymore, and hopefully they will all be decentralized and destroyed in the next 10 to 20 years.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly the path it seems like we're on. It's hard to deny at this point. It gets harder and harder to deny each day. All right, let's check out this next one. Okay, bitcoin.org, Bcash squatters. What do you got for us here?
Yeah, this is a bit of propaganda. We actually gave away these pictures free to a couple of people, to a couple of sales. We sold a couple of pictures back in probably late 2017 at conferences, and we gave these pictures away free, and we tried to make them as widely displayed as possible. A lot of people who get involved in Bitcoin, the first thing they do is type in bitcoin.com. And they're being missold. They're being sold to Bitcoin Cash alongside Bitcoin as an alternative, as an equal almost to Bitcoin, and it just isn't. It's a fraud. It's Roger Ver at his finest, with all his power and might and all his Bitcoin and his domains, is using it to his own advantage. It hasn't worked. Back in the day, they were saying Bitcoin Cash would be bigger than Bitcoin, and it certainly isn't anywhere near the size now.
It's kind of interesting. It feels like ancient history now, but it wasn't really that long ago, and there's still people that very much believe that somehow.
It's amazing the number of people you meet who say, "Oh, Bitcoin's dead," and it's all the latest thing. I think is Solana this month, or Theta, or whatever it is. There's always something new coming along, but I think Bitcoin is here to stay. I think Ethereum might have a place for kind of scams. I think all the others will just eat themselves and come along, and something new will come along every year, and they'll just eat each other. And I hope it does. Hope it stays that way.
Yeah. I personally have nothing against experimentation. I think what really crossed the line here and what you're referencing is Bitcoin Cash taking Bitcoin.com and intentionally trying to mislead people to make them believe that Bitcoin Cash was the real Bitcoin. That's borderline fraud.
Yeah, I mean, it's not. It's I mean that is probably the biggest example. But if you look at the Bitcoin Foundation, which has a bit of a checkered history, but it was always involved in Bitcoin back in from the very early days. It was the only real like collection of people standing up for it and trying to fight regulation, I guess, at the start. And that's now effectively a Bitcoin SV fraud site. They kicked out most of the members, and it's all Bitcoin SVers. I think all 20 of them in the world or something.
Isn't that interesting? You know, whenever you see a supposed Bitcoin competitor, what's the trend I've seen play out at least several times is that community ends up getting fractured, right? Like it's, you know, Bitcoin Cash gets fractured, and you know, a bunch of the community moves to SV. Ethereum now kind of looks like it's getting fractured. A lot of people moving to Solana and whatever other layer ones. But you know, the one thing that doesn't change is Bitcoin.
Yeah, we've always been big Ethereum haters. Like there's a picture up in the corner here about Alien Ether, and it's very advanced tech. But you got to remember, Vitalik Buterin worked for Bitcoin magazine back in 2013, 14. The four founders of Ethereum, three of them have left. One of them now runs Cardano. It just goes, having run Ethereum Classic and forked it first. So yeah, they're always infighting. Their egos are out of control, which is why they think they can beat Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And again, it comes down to Bitcoin has the community. Bitcoin has the people willing to fight for it, and they're not just in it for the money. I don't think, unlike all these other shitcoins.
Yeah, and you know, it makes me think to back to your first piece. It's like if any of these other chains had that 2x showdown, it's pretty clear which way it would go, right? Like the institutions would be able to influence the chain in a way that fits their incentives. There's not the node runners like the node runners wouldn't stand a chance because there's so few of them, and you know, it takes so many resources to actually run a node on those chains.
Yeah, I think the crypto world is complicated, so nothing's perfect. But I think Bitcoin and the origin of Bitcoin and the community is just you have to follow. You might not agree with everything. I mean, the likes of Monero aren't too bad because obviously they have more in line with the anarchists and then hidden transactions and less public, and there's lots to like about things like that. And Bitcoin Gold is probably the one fork that we kind of hold a begrudging respect for because it's all about the users really. But again, you can't go along. You can't go all in on these other things because Bitcoin's for us is like Bitcoin's here to save the world and it's Bitcoin or nothing, Bitcoin or bust. And it has been that way back since we got involved.
Yeah,
I remember we one of the first pictures we did was too big to jail, and we gave the very first picture to Max Kaiser in London. And the second picture was auctioned off for Pro Tip, run by a guy called Chris Ellis. And he was a big Bitcoiner back in the day. And yeah, we had exactly that discussion with him. And he'd been involved in Feathercoin, which was a big thing back in the very early days. And yeah, he comes to the same conclusion. It was Bitcoin or bust. And he's much cleverer than we will ever be. So we went along with him.
yeah, interesting. All right, let's see what else you got here. Dollar Drain. What can you tell us about Dollar Drain?
Yeah, so fiat currencies are inflationary. When we were young, a can of Coke was 10 pence or 10 cents or whatever it is. It's now $1. You've lost 90% of the value of your fiat savings or currency. It doesn't retain value. It does quite the opposite. Bitcoin is designed to be deflationary. Supply is slowly eroding and will eventually stop completely all new supply. And it's designed to retain value. It's designed to protect savings, protect your investments, protect your hard-earned money, as it were. So, yeah, why would anyone have a bank account with savings in it nowadays? It makes no sense, and I think it's going to become rarer and rarer as more and more people realize the benefits of Bitcoin.
Yeah, I think it's kind of the most succinct narrative that helps you know, people who otherwise aren't into this kind of thing, just help them understand the importance of Bitcoin. And what I love about your work here is that it's so simple, but also just so powerfully tells that narrative. I think
We've never tried to overcomplicate the pictures.
yeah.
We have one or two artists who are much better than the art would seem, but it's all for us. It's all about the message. It's all about effectively Bitcoin propaganda.
Yeah. Keep it simple and make it emotional, right? That's the most powerful meme.
Exactly.
All right. This is my personal favorite. I just love the look of this Bitcoin mantra.
Yeah. So this picture originally it was designed, and we had someone being beheaded. I think we might have had a Citibank or a JP Morgan a badge on their lapel at the same time. But obviously, Bitcoin is open to all. It's not really designed to be a hostile currency. It's designed to be anti-war. It's designed to defund militaries and defund central banks and defund governments. Effectively, in a hyper-Bitcoinization scenario, everything becomes crowdfunded, whether it be roads or schools or anything. And I think in that, if it came to that, people would not spend their savings on nuclear weapons and military jets and drones and things that really do very little good. They're used for far more nefarious purposes. They cause far more problems than they solve on the whole. So yeah,
Yeah.
Bitcoin. We've seen this is it's all about protecting liberty. The early days of Bitcoin was really brought to the world's attention, but libertarian conferences in Texas and these are the type of people, the anarchists who really bought Bitcoin, and people who don't believe in governments, people who do believe in like effectively power to the people. It's about the 99%, hence the mask, hence the imagery. That's the sort of Viva Vendetta idea. That's exactly what it's all about. That's exactly what it stands for us, and that won't change no matter how many banks start selling it to their private clients, etc.
Yeah, I feel like your collection of works here really just brings that all together in a very clear way, which, especially right now, feels important because, just following whatever the latest trends on Bitcoin, crypto, Twitter, I feel like we've lost the plot in a lot of ways. Whether it's even just Bitcoin number go up or what's going on with the shit coins or the NFTs. It's easy to get distracted and forget what this is all about. And what you're showing here is that look, this is all about change. This is all about ending corruption. This is all about ending war. This is about giving power to the people. And now more than ever, I feel like we need that reminder.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly. Just you mentioned NFTs, and we've actually created. We've only recently got into the NFTs. We weren't too sure about them for a long time, but I think it's a market you can't ignore. And the conclusion we came to, although we didn't agree with them at first, was it effectively stores the art forever. It gives the holder the digital rights. So if the picture gets destroyed, they've still got the digital image. So in this case, yeah, we've stored all the pictures on. So effectively, there are the same number of NFTs as there are the physical art. So if there's 5 copies of a picture, there's 5 copies of the open dimes and the NFTs on each one of them. So yeah, the pictures, the auction we're doing, it comes with 6 open dime wallets, each with the number 3 of each picture in line with the physical pictures.
Yeah, I love this edition. Look, I mean, love or hate NFTs, it's getting hard to deny that they're not going to be a big part of our future. And if they're going to exist, they should exist on the strongest network known to mankind, which is undoubtedly Bitcoin. And what I love about the counterparty tokens is that they can be stored on the open dime, on any Bitcoin address. And you took it to another level here, which had not occurred to me, but just makes a ton of sense, is you can actually store the digital image on the open dime as well, because it's effectively a USB drive. It's a hard drive.
Yeah,
not only is it like your certificate of authenticity, but it's a guarantee that you'll never lose that image.
Exactly. I mean, this certainly wasn't our idea. It's been done before by a few Bitcoin artists, and yeah, no, I mean, we just love the idea really of being able to give a digital copy, something that's in the case that the picture is lost or destroyed, that they would still have that digital rights, effectively the digital image, to kind of fall back on and be able to keep. And obviously these things are becoming tradable, and you never know. So why not? I guess.
Yeah, very cool. So I did skip one here. Federal time bomb. What can you tell us about this one?
That's probably our favorite. uh, and the Fed is really again what it's all about. Central banks and central banking is what Bitcoin's really after. That's the aim of Bitcoin is to reduce the power and influence of central banks who do nothing but protect the 1%. They're controlled by 1%. They print money to protect the 1%. And look, most people have not, in most parts of the world, most people haven't really felt a huge amount of suffering. But if you lived in Argentina or Venezuela or various parts of Africa, these things have a major, major impact. Now, although the central banks are evil, we consider the Fed to be the worst of the worst. Most central banks are at least controlled in theory by a government and by the people. The Federal Reserve is just a cartel of private banks who can practically control the world for their own ends and then to protect their own wealth and to increase their own wealth. So we just see absolutely no reason for the Fed to exist. The Federal Reserve recently came out very anti-Bitcoin, which it has to be. It has to be because Bitcoin's here to destroy it, and hopefully it will one day. I think it's well on the way to doing it, and it's about time. JFK back in the day tried to destroy it. Look what happened to him. So it is a war. All our pictures are fairly designed to be revolutionary. This is a war. It's not a war involving bombs and guns. It's a war of minds. And the more people realize exactly how the Federal Reserve works, the more people realize how dollar printing works, which is not simple to understand. They don't make it simple to understand. They're not clear for a reason. And the more people that realize how it works, the more people will give up on it and come to Bitcoin, which is exactly what the world needs.
Yeah, 100%. And look, I mean, it's like, it's Bitcoin. Bitcoin is just mining blocks and putting just transactions in a decentralized ledger. It's just doing its thing. It's the way I see it. The Federal Reserve is going to blow itself up no matter what Bitcoin is doing, unless you believe that somehow it's possible just to continue printing money with no consequence. And look, the world's uncertain, but I have a hard time grasping that. And thankfully, we have Bitcoin here as an alternative for like if and when that blow up happens, we have something to fall back on. We have something we can depend on now that will hopefully protect us from as much of the repercussions of that event as possible.
Yeah, I think as we said before, like the more people that give up on the dollar and come to Bitcoin, the less power the Fed has. The less people want their what they produce, the less power they have, less control they have, and the more power and people and control people have, which surely is no bad thing.
Yeah, love it, man. Okay, all right, cool. We got a bit on the board. We got 100,000 sats from the webmaster. Let's talk about what else you added to this collection. You have the Bitcoin bunker. We have some prints here for us. What can you tell us about the Bitcoin bunker?
These were posters that I think they were originally made back in 2015. We never really got around to releasing them. We had huge problems agreeing on a website design and the various internal issues that stopped us kind of getting our website up until probably a year ago. There's two posters we've got. This was the first one. It was a image that was put together in 2015. Again, just very simple imagery design showing that how Bitcoin can protect you from inflation, from the dollar, from the world. If it does implode, then you certainly want to be holding Bitcoin, preferably in a bunker.
Tell us what do you have pictured here? What is it? Are those are okay? So those are dollar signs in the background, right?
Yeah.
And you have this is a bunker, Bitcoin, and there's a television in there. What's the television say?
I think it's certainly pro Bitcoin imagery. With let me have a look. It's a long time ago since we made these.
Okay, I'm putting you on the spot.
You are.
Let's see if I can zoom in. No. I can't. I can't see it.
Hold on, I got a big picture here. We haven't actually got the posters. We think the CIA might have got hold of them on the way. They're being transported here to the headquarters. It just says protect yourself now.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the idea. Bitcoin is basically financial protection. It's financial sovereignty. It's the idea that I mean, we've all with when we first got involved with CrypArt, it was all about cold storage. We were never big fans of the exchanges and like handing over your sovereignty because it makes no difference. Keeping Bitcoin on an open dime wallet, on a cold card wallet, on a ledger, on any of these things, on a physical coin, any of these things have to be good because you're the one in control and you're not relying on anyone else.
Yeah, that's another refreshing reminder that I feel like we don't get enough of these days. A lot of people, especially new people in the space, it doesn't seem like they're holding their own keys. People have forgotten what happened with Mt. Gox, and they've gotten a little too comfortable, perhaps. So always a good reminder to take personal responsibility for your financial sovereignty.
Although I guess if the likes of Coinbase and some of these bigger exchanges get hacked now, they're insured, so you can bring down a few insurance companies at least as well.
I guess if you want to rely on that system, sure. I mean, I guess it's good that it's there, but yeah, I prefer to maintain that responsibility myself.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, cool. So what else do we got here? Let's go to the next poster. You have Bitpocalypse. What can you tell us about this one?
So the Bitbunker poster, we got involved in an argument with on Twitter with a guy called Cody Wilson. He's famous for producing the 3D guns and releasing them. Complete anarchist, very big Bitcoiner, very involved in dark markets, kind of back in the day. He's got himself in a bit of trouble, and I think he's become very secluded. I think, but he's still working on his 3 guns, and each to their own. But he didn't like the Bitcoin bunker. He thought it was too lame. So this was effectively, especially produced to him, showing a kind of more destructive version of it. Effectively, that the world in a Bitpocalypse. Effectively, that Bitcoin is the only thing that could do if the world really imploded, which I think is unlikely. As much as they print, they have control of the world still. So unless enough people one day move to Bitcoin, then I think the system's propping itself up and has been doing a good job since 2008, really. But you're right that it could implode. How badly it implodes is, I guess, depending on how many people realize they need Bitcoin and how many people understand this quickly enough. I mean, I think if in a real wave, I think 2017 was really the first popular wave we saw. A lot of people moved to Bitcoin. A lot of people moved to cryptocurrency in mass droves. But I still think, although the institutions and a few hedge funds and a few kind of stock market companies are getting involved in this stuff, I still think every big tech company potentially should have its reserves in Bitcoin. Why don't they? Why doesn't Apple and Google and all these people? And if this starts happening, then the Fed's in big trouble, the dollar's in big trouble, all fiat currencies are in big trouble, and the world really changes at that point. And that's the dream for Bitcoin, is the hyper Bitcoinization. I think it can't happen too quickly, otherwise the world goes through a period of very radical change, which will be tricky. But I think it's a gradual drip, as we showed before in the dollar drain, and hopefully this happens. But yeah, if enough of people realize all at once that they have to do this, and everyone starts jumping on the bandwagon, as tends to happen with these kind of boom and bust cycles, then this picture really depicts exactly a kind of worst case scenario when you definitely need to be holding Bitcoin, or you're in big trouble.
Yeah, I always think back to the phrase gradually then suddenly, and we're certainly in the gradually phase right now, and you never know what's going to happen, but suddenly could happen at any time.
Yeah, I mean, we've never really been big involved in giving kind of price predictions and things, and but yeah, I can quite easily see the Bitcoin price doubling by the end of the year, being half what it is at the moment by February. Everyone considering it dead for a couple of years, and then it going up to $1 million. That's the type of thing that Bitcoin does. So we'll see. No one can tell. No one really knows. But It's always best to have a few and to stack sats and hold it for the long term.
That's right. Low time preference. All right. Let's get to the Be the Revolution T-shirt. I love kind of iconic logo you've offered for us here. This is obviously the Guy Fawkes mask, and it's prevalent. But what can you tell us about using this image for the Crypsi Art Collective?
When we first got involved back in, we were causing a lot of trouble on Twitter back in probably 2014, and we did get a few kind of dodgy messages saying, "What are you doing using this imagery?" and from all kinds of strange people. And we explained ourselves, explained that we were anti-government, explained that we were pro-Bitcoin, explained Bitcoin's people. We were big fans of Change Tip back in the day, and we would blast as many people as we could with bits of Bitcoin. So we remember like tipping the likes of Mike Tyson, Paris Hilton, all kinds of people Floyd Mayweather, all these people who wouldn't accept the Bitcoin tips at the time, but now are kind of all over their shitcoins and promoting stuff. And so we've always stuck with the anonymous image. The idea of the 99% is that's what Bitcoin's about. It's about a global currency for all people. It's apolitical. It's areligious. It doesn't care. It's code. It's maths. It can't be co-opted effectively. So that's what's the Crypsi sign is old. The image on the front was actually recently changed, just the kind of laser eyes movement, which again we resisted for a long time. We don't like the idea of laser eyes to what is it, $100,000, which I think was the main idea. Price is they're not the important bit to Bitcoin. Laser eyes to $1 million might have been better. But yeah, again, like you got to go with the movement, even if you don't agree with them. So yeah, we changed our original image, and this is really our newer image, our kind of profile picture, if you like. So that was as close as we would get to laser eyes with the Bitcoin symbols in the eyes.
Yeah, very good. It's a powerful but simple. I think that sums up all of your works. And look, man, thank you so much for everything you and the Crypsi Art Collective do. Again, I don't think there could be a better time for a reminder of what this revolution is about, and I feel like your artwork depicts that perfectly. So, really appreciate everything you do, and it's definitely much needed in this space right now.
Yeah, well, no, thank you for your time and your support. We're obviously big fans of Scarcity, so keep it up.
Awesome, Crypsi. Well, thanks for joining us. Great to chat with you, and we hope to do it again soon.
Thanks.
All right, take care.